brink. They're going to go over the edge, and at the
You're up.
All right, welcome to the show, World Soccer Radio, Sports Byline USA Radio Network. I'm Nick Geber with Danny Page. Big day in the Premier League. Lots to get to today as some really surprising results, Danny. I mean, we're really talking about the Midlands derby was quite an entertainer. The surprise of the day, you think?
Certainly the surprise of the day as far as how enjoyable the match was. But obviously the story today is that City are top of the table, and I'm not sure anyone else will lead the Barclays Premier League again the rest of the season. Now, maybe Arsenal can jump in front for a bit this weekend, but City now control their own destiny.
Well, we will find out. I mean, there's some big matches ahead. We're going to talk about that and loads more, of course. We're going to talk about Chelsea dropping points today. A big surprise, actually, West Ham United. Failure to break them down and score a goal. Of course, Big Sam packing every man behind the ball. Jose has some fine comments about this. They had a great little back and forth between the two managers in the post-match press conferences. We're going to bring you some of those selected quotes, and of course, you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what those two had to say after the match. Great stuff from our boys, Sam and Jose. Yeah, only 4 matches today, but it seems like there are so many talking points, and we're perfectly equipped to go through it all with you. We'll also be joined by USA Today's Nate Scott, friend of the program, who did a story comparing Moyes and whether or not he can live up to Sir Alex Ferguson. That was for USA Today. Nate's going to join us later on in the show. Jam-packed show tonight, Nick.
All right, find us on Twitter at World Soccer Radio. That's at World Soccer Radio. It's a great way to communicate with us throughout the show. But yes, we're going to be speak to Nate Scott from USA Today. That should be exciting. We'll get back to the Man United issue. But quite frankly, Danny, I'm just titillated to play these quotes from these managers because today it just doesn't get better than this, does it, Danny?
It just does not get any better than this. Really looking forward to that, Nick. Should be a great show tonight.
That's right. Big hello to our men and women in uniform listening around the world on American Forces Radio. A privilege to be with you as we are each and every weeknight from 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, if you're on the affiliate stations of the Sports Byline Network or iHeartRadio or TuneIn.com or watching us live at watchwsr.com, which is our YouTube feed. Man, we have so much fun doing this show. We love to bring it to you. And, of course, we are the only syndicated radio show Monday through Friday in America, bringing you the beautiful game. So make us a regular part of your week. Pen us in. We do have to go to break, which we're going to do. When we come back, we're going to kick it all off right here on World Soccer Radio. right, welcome back to the show, World Soccer Radio on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. I'm Nick Geber with Danny Page, and it is always a pleasure to be with you each and every weeknight from 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Big matches we got to talk about today, Danny. Big stuff.
Yeah, this Tottenham-Man City match today, I think a lot of it coming into the match, Nick, looked at it as being a lot more about really Tottenham than anything else. I think for the most part, everyone thought, okay, what can Tottenham do? Where can Tottenham go with a victory? Can they keep pace with Liverpool? Can they keep distance against United? It's at White Hart Lane. What an opportunity, you know? What a moment here for Tottenham to really seize their chance. And instead, boy, they just completely fell flat on their faces, really, didn't they? As Man City obviously getting the early goal. The Danny Rose decision was rather questionable, I think, to many. But City were the dominant team today, and City are the league leaders and the prohibitive favorites. They are going to be very, very difficult to beat. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, look, I was expecting more from Spurs in this match. You and I did not predict. I think we said it was going to be a 3-1, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it ended up being 5-1.
Part of that was Danny Rose's sending off. And, look, I mean, it was going to be difficult enough 11 on 11, of course, to make it 11 on 10 is, was almost an impossible task. They did get the consolation goal. And, as I'm watching Spurs and I'm watching Adebayor, I'm just scratching my head because, quite frankly, he was the guy that injected energy, passion. I mean, he was really the linchpin of so much of what Spurs were trying to do. And I just scratch my head about what has been going on there. Before when they had Andre Villas-Boas, where this guy was in the doghouse, and I just think that they went so far off the tracks with AVB. Tim Sherwood's brought them back, but they are nowhere near where they should be with the price of that squad. I hear that Lewis Holtby's clear to go now in January. That's the third of their big. That's the third of their big signings. They're basically giving up on. Boy,
Holtby was last January.
Holtby was last January. Yes, that's true.
And I think they are giving up on him a little early as well by letting him go. I think it would have been a good idea to perhaps loan out Holtby. You know what, Nick? I think back to actually when I watched today's match, okay? You know what I think about? I think about Boxing Day.
Yeah.
I think about Liverpool going to the Etihad and the way that they were maybe the better team on the field that day. That Tottenham's main rival for fourth spot, Liverpool, went away to City and were the better side.
Yeah.
And now Tottenham, in 2 matches against City, have been beaten by a cumulative tally of 11-1. And I think this demonstrated to us the massive, massive difference between Tottenham and Liverpool today. That's a huge part of it.
An absolutely ginormous gap. There's a lot of work to be done at Spurs. I do think Tim Sherwood's the right guy. I think they've got the right guy there at Spurs. I mean, I really do. But I think they're a lot further away than they thought. A couple of weeks ago, Danny, I was saying, I actually like Spurs best for that fourth spot.
You were saying that at the beginning of the week.
I was saying that at the beginning of the week. But, there was something about today when you look, and Adebayor is the guy injecting everything into that team. There's a lot of, and I thought he was superb, by the way. I mean, I really did.
Today?
No, just in general. I think he's really been the bright star. In and amongst 110 million pounds of signings. And it is strange. Look, Eriksen's quality, we know that. Still really to maybe be shown in the right situation. But there's a lot of work still to be done at Tottenham Hotspur. I don't think, after watching them today, not that they lost to Man City, Danny, not that they lost to Man City. It was the way they lost to Man City. It was the fact that they were at home. They really never looked like they were in that game. It made me scratch my head a little bit and think, maybe the top 4 as they sit right now. And why don't we make it easy and take a look at the top 4? There you go. Man City 53 points, Arsenal 52, Chelsea 50, Liverpool 46. And then Spurs 43. I know they're only 3 points behind Liverpool, but there is a quality gap, and the quality gap is where it matters the most, Danny. It's in putting the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, that's not there. And when you have to, let's bring up one other thing here. as well, Nick, is that, yes, Spurs are only 3 points behind Liverpool. Do you realize they are 30 behind on goal difference?
So it's essentially 4 points, right? I mean, it's essentially 4 points.
Well, they should give some bonus
worth
points for a 30-point advantage on goal difference. That is just absolutely ridiculous. Now, Spurs are lucky, though, because they are only 4 points behind Liverpool, if you count that tiebreaker. But no less, it's hard to really envision this team battling for a top 4 spot, especially with the way that Man United appear to be at least on the trails of some sort of resurgence. That at least the possibility of a comeback lies there for United.
Oh, absolutely. By the way, we'd love to hear what you have to say. The best way to reach us on this show, of course, is via Twitter. So you can find us on our Twitter account. It is @WorldSoccerRadio. That's @WorldSoccerRadio. Let us know how you feel about this. But Danny, I'm with you. I mean, there's a huge gap. Look, the most important thing in the Premier League is scoring goals.
Yeah.
That's why strikers cost the most amount of money. That's why you can have the Vincent Kompany, who in my mind is just absolutely brilliant as a defender, the guy that you build the spine of your team around, but his value is going to be nowhere near that of a Sergio Aguero or a Luis Suarez. Okay, I mean that's why finding those players, Danny, is so critical, so important. So quite frankly, that is the largest hurdle any team has to overcome. You can have all the money in the world, but if that player's not available, if that guy to sign with that money is not around, you're in big problems. Look at Spurs. Great example.
I think they sold a world-class player and tried to fill too many holes in doing so. They really have no one that can play wide. I mean, were you really trying to replace Gareth Bale with Chadley or something along those lines? Instead of, going out and buying a number of players for 25, 30 million, or even 15 here and there, why not go out and get just a blockbuster guy instead of I don't know. I guess that's what they tried to do with Lamela, but he's just a disaster.
Disaster or not settled in. I mean, let's not forget. I mean, these players don't just become bad players because they go to Spurs, or they don't go from really good players to average players just because they go to Spurs. I mean, or to another team. There's time to bed in, develop the system. AVB was an unmitigated disaster. We'll all agree on that. But Danny, you bring up you really bring up I think a really, really, really good point about Spurs. And that is that, for everything that they've signed for $110 million pounds worth of players, or 100 million pounds worth of players, at the end of the day, they really miss Gareth Bale, the guy that puts the ball in the back of the net in the critical moments, the guy that drags you kicking and screaming back into games, that picks the team up by the scruff of the neck and put them in. They don't have one of those character players. And I think, Danny, what I was trying to say, which in fact you've now made me focus in on exactly what I was trying to say about Adebayor, is in some respects I watch him out there and he's trying to take on that role.
That's a great point. He really is, and he's working harder than I think I've ever seen him work in his career. I do want to say, though, Nick, a good tweet coming in here from DMAC. You can hit us up at World Soccer Radio. He says, Spurs have a soft schedule coming up. Hull, a beat-up Everton, Newcastle, Norwich, and Cardiff. And here's the thing. We talk about Arsenal's season being determined by these fixtures coming up against Liverpool, United, Chelsea, Tottenham, Man City. I feel like Tottenham's ability to keep pace will be determined by these upcoming fixtures against the lower ability sides. I think if they can win those matches and keep doing what they've done under Sherwood, they can keep pace. Now, that said, I think it was a mistake that we all drank the Tim Sherwood Kool-Aid, and we ever could have believed that this Tottenham team, managed by Tim Sherwood, could go toe-to-toe with Pellegrini's brilliant Man City.
Right.
They've beaten them 11-1 on goal difference, and at this point, this Tottenham team does not belong in the UEFA Champions League. Not one bit, not at all, not whatsoever.
All right.
To lose 11-1 over 2 matches.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is a bit embarrassing to say the least. But, City have that way of doing that to people, don't they? All right, World Soccer Radio, Sports Byline, USA Radio Network, Nick Geber and Danny Page with you. 800-878-PLAY, 800-878-PLAY. If you've got something to say, we'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, we're going to step aside, take a break here on the Sports Byline Network. Now's a great time, folks, to use the loo if you have to do that. I'll be honest with you. If you've got a drain, now's the time to do it. So take care of business, and we'll see you back here in 3 minutes.
What do you say
All right, we are back. World Soccer Radio, Sports Byline USA. You don't like that, do you, Danny? You don't like that music? That
was loud, man.
That's Motorhead. That's Ace of Spades.
That was really loud.
It's not
I don't
your
know if I could deal
electronic
with
dance, My Little Pony music, is it?
No, that is a far more melodic genre. Our messages of peace and love constantly.
What a
How
snooze!
do you like that?
What a snooze fest, Danny.
It's amazing. We're like the new hippies.
Yeah, right, exactly. But without
Are we doing a show Friday? Because I'm going to a concert, actually. Do I have to come on the air?
You
it's
do.
Deadline Day.
Yeah.
Deadline
What's
Day.
the concert you're going to on Friday?
I can't. It's a DJ from Orange County. It's in San Luis Obispo. My friend's putting on. His name's Steve Aoki. You've never heard of him.
Okay.
He's one of the most famous DJs in the world.
Any relationship to Rocky Aoki, the guy that founded Benihana's?
His parent. Yeah, that's his son. It's the
it
son
is?
of Benihana. Yeah.
Well, there you go. And I know Rocky
hey-
Aoki because I used to watch Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous with Robin Leach. Right.
Yeah, that's his son.
It's hard. It's hard, with that sort of start in life, isn't it?
I know, right? Friday should be a pretty awesome show. I'm upset that Sky Sports News went away, obviously, but I will be up at 9 a.m. with my tablet going. I will have some feed of Sky Sports News somewhere.
NBC Sports are doing a special.
Yeah, they're doing a 1-hour special. I want wall-to-wall, 8 hours, Natalie Sawyer and Jim White wearing their Deadline Day yellow. I want the shot of Big Ben. I want the real deal.
Hey,
and I
Big
love
Ben, man. He's awesome, Big Ben. He's so
I love
cool.
NBC Sports coverage.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like Deadline Day with Sky Sports News. So Friday is going to be a great show.
Quite honestly, I disagree with you, Danny. Because I have to tell you, there is nothing like an irritated and agitated Jose Mourinho. There is nothing like the special one who is irritated and peed off, quite frankly. I don't know any other way to put it. Chelsea drop points to West Ham. It's a draw. It's a snooze fest, which is a great way to put it. As I'm watching Chelsea and this 0-0 unfold in front of me, Danny, at Stamford Bridge, I'm saying to myself, do they regret getting rid of a creative player like Juan Mata, somebody he could have brought in to maybe try to thread the needle?
Right.
And,
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But I mean, I'm just looking. When you talk about great players who are creative and can, and imaginative and can figure out problems, that was a problem. They couldn't figure it out. Mourinho was PO'd. I don't know any other way to put it.
He was not happy.
He was not a happy man. And you know what? When Mourinho is unhappy, that is when we get the world's greatest quotes. So here we go from the press conference immediately following the game. Here is the one, the only Jose Mourinho.
It's very difficult to play a football match where only one team wants to play. It's very difficult. Football match is about two teams playing, and this match was only one team playing and another team not playing. I told Big Sam and I repeat my words. They need points, and because they need points to come here and play or don't play, to come here the way they did, is it acceptable? Maybe yes. Maybe yes. I cannot be too much critic, because if I was in this position, I don't know if I would do the same. Maybe. So I don't want even criticize that. But at the same time, I told also this is not Premier League. This is not the best league in the world. This is football from the 19th century. Too bad, So with my players, I'm happy.
What do you mean by 19th century football? What do you mean by that?
Cheating. I don't know if it's the right word. Pretending injuries. The goalkeeper winning time since the first minute, not after minute 70, first minute. Medical staff coming in, kicking long balls to nobody. 10 defenders in the box. The defenders, they didn't put one foot outside the box. So, it's very basic, very.
Well, there you have it.
Well,
huh?
Danny, how about that, huh?
Well, here's the thing, Nick. If I can respond to Jose before Sam Allardyce, okay?
Yeah.
Let me take you back to a day that I remember quite well. April 24th, 2012. The location, the Camp Nou. The teams, Chelsea and Barcelona. And Chelsea, who have one of the highest payrolls on the planet. What do they elect to do when they go to Camp Nou? How do they elect to play? Exactly like this. What happens if Chelsea are drawn against Barcelona in the Final Four this year with Jose out there? They will pack it in. It is horrible, and it is hypocritical from Mourinho to sit there like this when he knows he'd do the same thing tactically up against a Barcelona later on in the season.
But for me, Danny, I'm personally really happy because, I've often wondered, by the way, what 19th century football was like, because I've, even though I'm old, that was certainly before my time. That was really the sort of early days of the game. I'm really glad that we got to see Big Sam, who clearly was alive back in the 19th century, playing some quality 19th century football. I mean, it was wonderful. No, this is one of these great Mourinho quotes, and he makes these statements, and then he sort of quantifies them. Would I do this? Yes, I suppose I would. I mean, so he makes these sort of backhanded slaps, these backhanded compliments, these sort of reverse statements he makes at people. It's great stuff. I love this guy, by the way. I'm so happy he's back in the Premier League. I just love Jose Mourinho. He's one of the most exciting guys in all the sports from a perspective. But Big Sam, Danny, was not to be outdone because this is what Big Sam had to say in response to Mourinho's comments.
And I knew he would. He can't take it, can he? He can't take it. He just can't take it because we've out-tacticked him, we've outwitted him. You know what I mean? He just can't cope, can he? So there you go.
He said he told you as well.
I know he did. He can tell me all he wants, I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? I love to see Chelsea players moaning at the referee, trying to intimidate him, Jose jumping up and down saying we play crap football, we play anything. It's brilliant when you get results against him.
That is so good. That's another character.
By the way, I just want to point out those clips were courtesy of the Mail Online. I just want to give credit here to.
That's another. That's another guy that I would be sad to see leave the top flight in England. Because of his character and who he is. I like Big Sam.
Well, he's not getting fired, Danny, because he is the 13th highest paid manager in all of football.
World football?
In all of world football. So if you think Sam Allardyce is getting sacked, folks, you are very, very wrong. Right. Because the severance package would be just too much. So he's sticking around, and if he takes them down, he's going to take them down. I mean, that's just the way it is. And by the way, I like Sam Allardyce. I don't think he's a rubbish manager. I think the situation there, they put all their eggs in the Andy Carroll basket, and he did play today, and he will be getting better and better. And they are right there. It is still very, very tight. Again, at the bottom of the table, Danny. We've talked about it. Why don't we just take a brief peek again at the table here?
Yeah, please.
And we can see that the bottom, we've got Cardiff with 18. They're starting to look like it's getting away maybe from Cardiff just because of their sort of form. Fulham on 19, West Ham 19, Sunderland 21, Stoke 22. A big match today there, by the way, Danny. And West Brom 22 points, Crystal Palace 23. So in other words, all the way up to 13th spot in the table, there's only 4 points differential.
You know what sticks out the most to me, Nick, of all the results today, of all the results this week, obviously Liverpool creating some distance, City going top, but probably the biggest result as far as the season as a whole is concerned was Aston Villa coming from 2 goals down to beat West Brom 4-3. They are now 8 points out of the drop zone. That's huge. Yeah. 8 points in this tightly compacted region. To be 8 points above West Ham, I think that is just massive. Well, Villa can start to breathe, especially going 2-0 down.
Yeah, it was a huge result. I mean, Danny, you actually predicted that they would lose this match, if I'm not mistaken. You thought West Brom were going to win?
No, I said 2-2. I said 2-2.
Oh, you said 2-2. Okay, well, is that what you said, Danny? I'm going to take a look here.
Have a look. 2-2.
Okay.
And I predict, exactly.
I'll go with you.
Hey, I got a tweet to read. Can I go for it? This is at Fishman_Brian at World Soccer Radio. Great show. Duh. Big Spurs fan here. We will finish 6th Man U has Rooney and RVP. Liverpool has Suarez. We don't have that quality. Well, I got to hand it to Brian, by the way. Thanks for listening, bud. And he's being a realist, which is better than most football fans, frankly.
Isn't that a little bit about what we were saying, though? I mean, really, finding that player that will put the ball in the back of the net is the most important thing, above and beyond everything else. All the creative midfielders you want, all the passers, all the creative players, they can make players around them better, but really, you need that clinical finisher. Liverpool right now are blessed with Suarez. I've now created a new term. And in fact, I asked the guys at Roughneck Scarves, I put a note out to them. I said they need to make a scarf that just says Suarez.
Nice.
You know, Suarez is so important. Same thing with Man City. I mean, look, they've got an incredible group of players that can put the ball in the back of the net. Aguero, Negredo. I mean, you name it. They've got Dzeko. They've got players that can finish more than a pint, I might add. Whereas you know, Tottenham, quite frankly, have players that couldn't score in a brothel.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't see that one coming. Nice line though, Nick. Nate Scott, USA Today, coming up next. We're going to talk about Man United because it isn't an edition of World Soccer Radio without Nick talking about United.
Is that right?
You
is that the new
talk
rule?
About United every day.
No, I would have been happy to do it, but actually
day.
Nate wrote an article in USA Today about Man United, so we're going to have a chat with him. Have a little chin wag with Nate. Let's find out what he has to say. All right, World Soccer Radio Sports Byline USA. Find us on Twitter at World Soccer Radio. Facebook, facebook.com/World Soccer Radio. Man, we are all over the place. Find us at watchwsr.com. Hello to our men and women in uniform on American forces and the affiliate station of the Sports Byline. We're going to go to break right now, and we will be right back.
What if I told you that
Nick, are you doing him from there?
Check out you.
All right, welcome back to the show, World Soccer Radio on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Nick Geber and Danny Page with you. Find us on Twitter, folks. It's a great way to communicate with us on the show. We love Twitter. You can find us at World Soccer Radio. That's at World Soccer Radio. Join the discussion. Not just during the show, by the way, but I mean, we are on Twitter, or seemingly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Right, Danny?
Yeah, a lot of action today, a lot of tweeting. It was happening during the matches. We had a great time today. This midweek stuff is just way too much fun, man. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great. Almost sorry to see it not be repeated, but of course we're getting ready for the Champions League, which should be providing us some midweek entertainment, and of course everybody's favorite Europa League, which should be providing us less entertainment, but maybe some. I don't know, Danny, some.
It's happening. It's happening, man.
It is. All right, well, I'll tell you what else is happening is that our guest is on the line. We're going to welcome to the show Nate Scott, who writes for many places, amongst others USA Today, and wrote an interesting article about Manchester United. Nate, how are you doing?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
All right, thank you. So the article in USA Today was about Manchester United. Fill our listeners in on what you found out.
So for the article, I spoke to a couple players, or their managers now, guys who started out in Scotland. They both come from Glasgow. One's Bobby Clark, who was the coach. He was the goalie for Aberdeen in the 70s, and then coached the New Zealand national team, and now he's the coach at Notre Dame. He just won a national championship. And then Ian Munro, who played for Ferguson early in Ferguson's coaching career in Scotland. And I wanted to talk to the two of them about what they noticed about Ferguson as a manager early in his career, and both actually know David Moyes a little bit, and I wanted to ask them just what they thought the difference between the two of them were as men, and what they thought the transition would be like, and if they thought Moyes could sort of take over from Ferguson, if this was ever going to work.
And what was your take on it? I mean, here are two guys that are familiar with both men. What was their take on it, and what was your take on their take, I suppose?
It was surprising when I came in. The reason I wanted to write the article is I was hoping they were going to tell me that there was some big fundamental difference between these two guys as men, just because I feel like the narrative's been that Ferguson was this swashbuckling kind of man-managing genius who got the most out of his players, and Moyes is more careful, more worrying. He's a more nervous manager. He isn't willing to take the chances that Ferguson did, and they sort of squashed that theory. They said, Moyes is a great manager. They think he has every chance to succeed at Man United, and that Ferguson, it took him some time to grow into that job, and it's going to take Moyes some time, but they seemed confident that he is the right man for the job.
Nate, it's interesting because I certainly feel that way. I have met both men. I have not spent nearly as much time with Alex Ferguson as I have with David Moyes. My impression of both of them is I'm a big fan of David Moyes. I think he's a visionary. I think he's a guy with really clear ideas. I think he is more conservative. I think he does take a long-term approach, but I'm not sure that Ferguson doesn't. I happen to have my beliefs about Alex Ferguson. I think he is, hands down, the greatest football manager ever, but he certainly was blessed with a crop of young players that came into his team at just the right time, provided the backbone, provided the playing backbone that he needed. Of course, we're talking about the class of 92, right? At the right time for him. And they had great longevity. I mean, Ryan Giggs still getting, carted out there with his oxygen and his gurney. He had that, which was a great advantage. And David Moyes is going to have to build that at United.
Sorry, you cut out there at the end. I couldn't catch that last bit.
I'm saying it seems to me that David Moyes is going to have that opportunity to put his stamp on the team, and he's doing that. And there's always a transition period.
I totally agree, and I think they'd agree with you. I think, there's a narrative that Ferguson rebuilt the team three times and never dropped off. But, he had those same. He had Scholes and Giggs, and he had a great crop of players running throughout. And the big point that Ian Monroe made, who's now with the Philadelphia Union, he played with Moyes and Ferguson. The big point he made was that at the top level, the margins of error are so slim that there was always going to be a period of adjustment. These players at Man United had only played for one guy who they trusted the most at the club, and there was going to be a period of adjustment. But they think that by the end of the season, Man United will be right where they belong, competing for a Champions League spot.
Not sure I agree with that, but I think
I don't know if I agree with that either.
Yeah, you know, Nate, it's a different landscape today, and Danny, because I know Danny's eager to chime in here. It's a different landscape today because, whereas you mentioned there was very little room for error at the top anymore, and that is so true because there are so many other powerful teams up there: Chelsea, Arsenal, City, Liverpool with Suarez with the Suarez. Tottenham with £100 million of new players still really need to gel against the big teams. I think it's more competitive than ever for those top four spots. Danny, don't you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't think there's any question about that. But I think, Nick, that we might be a little mistaken in thinking that it's more competitive than ever. Quality will really rise to the top the further on we get through the season. Everyone anticipates a 3-team race at the top. I'm just not sure that's going to happen, given what we saw today.
No, but we're talking top four. We're not talking about at the top.
I understand.
We're talking about the top four.
I just think the way that certain teams will distance themselves over the next 6 weeks here. I think my question is, what do you think, Nate, that signing did for Moyes' confidence and belief in his own ability, in the fans' belief in him to bring in quality players? I just think the Mata signing really deep down probably meant a lot to him to get that on the table and to show everyone that, yes, I can bring in a big player, no less from a rival.
And I think that was it. I honestly think it was more of a statement about him being the manager than, I didn't really understand it from a need perspective, just because I think Shinji Kagawa was actually a great player, and I think Rooney sort of plays the position that Mata likes. For me, though, it was just about, when a player as good as Mata comes on the market, you have to try and get him. It doesn't matter what the circumstances or what need is. When someone that good's available, you get him. And B, I thought that it was Moyes, making, like you said, making a real statement about that he can build a club that the world's top players still want to come to.
No, right. That's exactly it, isn't it? And it's unfortunate for Moyes, that he comes into a team that needs rebuilding, that has players that I don't quite look, the stable of players there that Ferguson brought in clearly were not the quality that Ferguson had hoped or thought they were. And so Moyes has got a rebuilding process ahead of him, and it may cost them a year or two out of the Champions League. Right. I question Fenway Sports Group and what their long-term investment's going to be at Liverpool if they can get into the Champions League. Are they going to go ahead and build the squad at that team that can keep them in the Champions League year in and year out? Because if not, they won't stay there more than a year or two because United will retool, rebuild, reinvest, and come right back there.
Yeah, the one thing I'd like to see from Moyes is, I think tactically at home, I feel like they're playing so cautiously at home. When Ferguson was at home, you'd notice both outside backs were always getting in. It wouldn't matter if it was the weak side or the strong side outside back; they were attacking constantly, and you just don't see that under Moyes. And I feel like they're not getting enough numbers forward, and it's exposing some of their players who may have looked fantastic under Ferguson. Now they don't have those numbers forward to sort of be dangerous with.
Yeah, I absolutely understand that. Nate Scott's our guest here.
And by the way, Nate, I have to apologize on our YouTube feed. We have the wrong picture for you up there. So you are not Brian Sciaretta. So we apologize. We apologize well in advance for that.
We do have the right Twitter up, though. I think that's what matters.
We have the right Twitter. We have the right name.
Anything.
We have the right name up. So our apologies, Nate.
All right, good.
Nate, what else are you working on at USA Today? I know you do a lot these days in soccer. What stories are you working on? What should we keep an eye out for at For the Win and USA Today?
I'm going to be talking to Omar Gonzalez and Eddie Johnson this week, both about club football, gearing up for the World Cup, and a little bit about some video game work they're doing.
That's interesting.
And yeah, we're putting out a USA Today glossy magazine for the World Cup preview. 4 writers and I were previewing every team in the World Cup coming up. The other writers and I are doing a big draft to see which teams we get to write about. I'm taking Belgium first overall if I get the pick, and that'll be out on newsstands in a few weeks.
No, awesome. Nate, we thank you very much. Once again, apologies for putting the wrong picture up there on our live video stream. I'm
not all that great looking anyway, so no worries.
Well, I tell you what, I could have put Tom Cruise up there for you instead.
Next time.
All right, Nate, and there will be a next time. We'd love to have you back. Let's talk more as we get further along down the line here.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot. All right.
Thanks, bud.
That is Nate Scott, who is not Brian Sciaretta, right?
Oh, yeah, that's funny.
Well, whatever.
That is funny. Well, there's a lot of elements. I mean, you host the show. The show originates from your locale. You do a lot of the production, and sometimes people just don't. They just look a little different. Yeah, absolutely. We can. It's a good thing you didn't put up a photo of like Sam Allardyce or something.
Oh boy, that Sam Allardyce quote was just classic, though, wasn't it?
Don't you just feel better though about Moyes' position after that signing? I feel like it just means a lot to where he feels about himself. I think in some ways too.
I think the fact that he got a player from Chelsea that wanted to come over and play at United. That still meant something, you know. I think that was important. That was important for a lot of reasons.
Really
so,
important.
You know,
really important.
Yeah, I'm with you. And look, I like David Moyes. As I said before, I've spoken to him on numerous occasions. He was one of the first Premier League managers ever to call into a radio show here in the United States. He's a forward-thinking guy. He's a technician. He's a really good guy. So I don't wish bad things for him. I can't stand his club, but we'll forgive him for that. But yeah, it's nice to see them. Nice to see them kind of get back. Danny, today for me was all about really City proving that they got the mettle, that they got what it takes. Because I don't care who you are, Spurs are considered one of the better teams in the Premier League. All right. So the fact that City goes to White Hart Lane and delivers that sort of thumping tells you that City are, really the real deal. Chelsea couldn't break down West Ham at home, tells you they're probably not the real deal. Because you have to ask yourself, do you think City would have been held to 0-0 at home against West Ham, even if he packed in 11 guys behind the ball?
No, I think I can predict how the top 4 will finish today, and I'll probably be right at the end of the year. City 1, Chelsea 2, Arsenal 3, Liverpool 4. City really staked their claim to be champions, and Liverpool really showed that they belong in 4th spot. And we learned a lot in the last 48 hours.
Yeah. Now, Danny, do you think 5th place? Do you think United will be on the way to the Europa League with that fifth place?
It looks like it at the moment. It looks like at the moment. They might just tank and leave the spot to Spurs, though.
Well, maybe they want to.
Yeah, exactly.
No, they've got to have some European football. We can talk about that briefly when we come back. World Soccer Radio, Sports Byline USA, and Nick Geber and Danny Page. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back. World Soccer Radio, Sports Byline USA. What's the
Oh,
matter,
man.
Daddy?
Oh, my goodness.
I'm just sharing some of my broadcast experiences with you during
Yeah,
the break.
I'm not sure it's exactly experience.
Yeah, no, that was not an experience. I have to tell you, the green room experience with that particular guest with his flatulence problems was not an experience.
Not a guest of this show. Well, I mean,
well, he may be, so we'll just watch
you,
what we
you
say.
have those problems on air, though.
I
mean,
do,
we're-
but
we're
you know,
doing the-
we don't have
we're doing
smell-o-vision
the
or
actual
smell radio
program.
yet, so we're good. All right.
Hey, tomorrow, Nick, Ivis Gallersepp joins us, and there's a lot to talk about in American soccer. You obviously know him. He's written for so many different outlets over the years, namely ESPN. His own site, Soccer by Ives, is massive. We're going to talk about a U.S. national team pre-World Cup friendly in New Jersey. We'll talk about Galaxy launching Galaxy 2.
Yeah, the USL
which
Pro
is-
team. Yep.
Exactly, the USL Pro team. That happened today. I want to talk to him a little bit about Josie Altidore, where he sees all that going. You know, Ivis just one of my favorite people in American soccer, and I'm really excited to have him on the show tomorrow.
All right. Well, he will be on the show, and I believe it's a first. I don't believe we've had him on before, so he will be making his debut here on World Soccer Radio tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Sports Byline USA Radio Network, American Forces. Go ahead, Danny.
And might I add, next week, too, Bobby McMahon's coming on the show. We're working with one of the hosts over at Talk Sport in the UK to perhaps join us on Monday. So we're already jam-packed, man. There's a lot of good stuff, a lot of good soccer.
We are jam-packed. And, of course, there is only one place you get all of this great stuff. It's right here on World Soccer Radio, Sports Byline USA. So you make sure to put us in your book or in your iPad or your iPhone or your whatever, okay? 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Back in my day, you just had to kind of, you had to kind of chisel it into the slate. But any way you can do it, you make sure.
19th century football.
That's right. You make sure you join us 9 p.m. Eastern Time right here on Sports Byline. Okay, folks, coming up next, one of the true legends of the game, Mr. Ron Barr. That's the broadcasting game we're talking about. And you can hear Ron right here on this very same channel, so don't change it. Meanwhile, we'll be back with you tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. For me, Nick Geber.
Me, Danny Page.
We'll speak to you tomorrow. Take care. Have a great one.
Peace.
Cheers.
All right, Limey, I'll talk to you tomorrow, man.
Thank you.
Later, Danny.
See you, bud.